Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to another tip, trick, technique session. In this session, we're going to have a look at a Cubase specific feature, and it's about Cubase folders. So I just wanted to give a run through for this for anybody that uses Cubase or anybody that has been thinking about Cubase and wants to know some of the great things that I like about it. So one of them is, as I'm talking about here today, is folders. So this is something when I was a Pro Tools user that I wished they had have implemented. And as of this recording, they still haven't. And that's been years and years. And I really don't understand why they don't. You know, when I was mixing in Pro Tools, it got to the point where I had sessions that were so large, you were constantly scrolling through tracks. It was hard to find things. And, you had to it was manageable, you could do it, but it was such an easy function that you thought, why can't I just put things in folders? So when I switched over to Cubase, it was fantastic to see folders, and I use them on every one of my mix sessions now. Now, I only use them to a small capability of what they could be used for because, we're talking about mixing sessions here where I just bundle up certain instruments. And that's pretty much the extent of it. But I have seen walkthroughs of sessions that are done by people that do um, motion pictures and big composing uh, projects and things like that. And they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tracks. And without folders, those guys would just go insane. But to be able to actually put everything under different folders and sort, and you can even nest under multiple folders as well, is just fantastic. And you can color code them as well. So anyway, let's just quickly get into it and have a look. And it'll be very short because it's a very simple thing to do. And I'll just show you them right now. All right, so I have a session here that I worked on for a client. And this setup that I have here, you can see these are folders, okay? And quite simply, they're folders because they just have this image of a folder. I have them named, I have them color coded, and this is not a special setup for this particular project for a client. This is what I do in my template, okay? I have these automatically already set up in my template, ready to go for every session. Now, depending on the session, I might adjust them, I might rename them, I might recolor them, I might add more folders, I might delete folders. So in this case here, I might delete this one because there's no audio in it. I might delete this one. But the beauty of having these set up is that I can quickly see what I want to work on, and I can expand only the items I want to work on. So if I want to work on my drums, now I can click on my folder and open it up, and all of these tracks are here. But instead of having all these tracks visible all the way down, and I've got to scroll and scroll and scroll to find the one I want, I can shrink these folders and I can jump to whatever I want. I want to work on the vocals next. Oh, I'll go down to the vocal folder, expand it. Here's all my vocals. Want to work on my BGVs? There they are. Want to have a look at the buses? There's the buses. Keeps your project nice and clean and organized, easy to find things. Okay, so how do we create these? Because we've already got them here, right? But let's imagine we don't already have them. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to imagine I'm going to take these out of the folder. Okay, and I'm just going to I'm going to remove. All right. So what I've got now is, so let's say you've laid out your tracks. I've got my tracks here and they're just sitting there and I'd like them into a folder. So quite simply, I select all the tracks that I want in a folder. I can right click and I can click on Move Selected Tracks to a new folder. Bang. Okay, they're all in this folder now. and it's called folder. Now, alternatively, I could have come up here to the plus and I could have got add a folder. Now, nothing's in that folder, but if we imagine that these tracks were again outside of that folder, or let's say I want to added a folder, now I want to move some of the tracks into it. I select the tracks I want and I grab them. So you can see a line has appeared, a red line where I can't drop it. So I'm trying to drop it now. All I do is bring it over the folder and this green arrow comes in. If I go down here, it's going to drop it below the folder, but it's not in the folder. So we need to drop it actually on the folder here. So the line is in the middle of the folder. As soon as I do that, it is now in that folder. Okay, so that's two ways to do it. So you can either drag tracks into the folder, or you can select the tracks and move them to a folder. Now, once you've got your folder, I can double click on the name and I can rename it to anything I like. Be as descriptive as you want. As you saw, I had drums, I had bass tracks, guitar tracks, keys, whatever else. Now, the other thing you can do is if you go over here, you can see automatically it comes up with this little instructions here that if I hold the control key and I click, I can now pick a different color. Okay, so I can say, oh, these are my drums. I want to create these. Now, you won't have these names, okay? This is a different setup that I'll explain in another video where you can pre-assign colors and give them names so that you can use the same colors all the time. So you're not going to have those names, but you will see a variety of colors that you can assign to your track here. So that's pretty simple. Okay, but we can go even further. So we could even say, I want to move this whole folder under this folder. Now we've got nested folders. So I've got folders inside of folders. If I want to move that back out, I just make sure that I bring it outside of the folder here and drop it above it. So now it's outside of the folder. So we can nest folders within folders within folders. And as I said, we can name them anything we like. We can color code them anything we like. Now, the other thing that we can do with folders is that we have some controls on it. Okay, so we can obviously open our folder and we can do things to individual tracks. But what I can also do is I can also mute at the folder level. And what it does is it mutes every track within that folder. Or I can solo every track within that folder. I can also set record enable. Now, none of these have input, so they won't come up, but we can also set monitor and we can do group editing. Okay, so if I have the group editing control here, obviously it gives me a warning because the tracks are all a different length and different size, but I can select the range selection tool here. And if I highlight a certain section that I want to edit, it'll do it on every track in that folder. If I turn that off and I do a range tool, it only does that one track. Turn it back on and we can select any section there and it will do it on all the tracks. Now, the other thing you can do is you can actually sort of edit at the folder level. So for instance here, I could actually trim all of these tracks by dragging the folder level and it will automatically do all of those. I could do it on the other end as well, but what you can also do is I can also go to my cut tool and I could cut them and you'll see it cut all of them there. This is very handy if you want to edit drum tracks because you need to edit all of the tracks in the drums together because they're played all together. You don't want to get any issues with moving things or fading, but you can trim them, cut them, and I can also move all of them by dragging the folder element. So not only is the folders great for visual and keeping your project organized, but it's great for editing. I'll use this all the time for when I get audio tracks and I just need to, if they cut, I'll quite often get songs like this where I will import all the audio and the audio doesn't actually start till partway down here. So I could actually go in and trim all of these tracks up and put a fade in and all that sort of stuff. But what I do when it's as obvious as this, I will just grab it at the folder level and I will drag it closer to the spot there. And I've instantly trimmed the wasted space and silence off all of those tracks. So it's great for arranging as well for that facility. There's other fancy arranging tools within Cubase, but you can do it with this as well by just breaking up your sections under the folder level and just moving parts around however you want it. And you could even do that using subfolders as well and all that sort of stuff. So it's really good for all of those sort of things. And as I said, I've got everything sort of sitting under folders for neatness, but also really good for control. So, I generally, when I start a mix, I might start with only wanting to work on the instrumentation. So I can just come in here and mute both of my vocal tracks and at the folder level, and it mutes all of the vocal tracks. Easy done. So there you go. That's folders in Cubase. If you're a Cubase user, hopefully you're already using folders. If you're not, maybe this is giving you some insight into how to use them, why to use them, and might encourage you to set them up into your template to do it going forward. If you're not a Cubase user and you have a DAW that does not support folders, then maybe this will tempt you over to changing DAWs to Cubase, but that's not the point of this. I'm not here to tell you to change DAWs. And if you're using a different DAW, Studio One, Logic, they've probably all got folders as well. So the concepts should be applied the same in your sessions and in your templates as well in your DAW. So hopefully this video has been helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.